Nesta Robert Marley is the embodiment of Jamaican roots music, and through a wealth of magnificent recordings and his rebel philosophy, he has become a hero to freedom fighters and the downtrodden around the world. So it's with great pleasure that the award-winning Midnight Ravers proudly present Bob Marley, Rasta Revolution, a 5-hour WBAI Music Marathon special, airing Friday, February 7th, 2014, from 12 midnight to 5 a.m. So tell your loved ones, tune in, and show your support. Only on WBAI in New York, 99.5 FM.
The Midnight Ravers, where every show is a special.
Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up.
Hi, this is Alec Baldwin, and you're tuned to WBAI, listener-supported, non-commercial radio in New York. Anything can happen. Support WBAI, Peace and Justice Radio in New York. Anything can happen.
That was a little traditional Burmese boxing music, and this is the War on Immigrants report. We are part of Global Movements Urban Struggles, and this is Adam Carroll with Burma Task Force USA. We'll be speaking with some people today about Burma and Sri Lanka and immigration. But first, the headline of today's Times Online is Boner, House Speaker Boner, doubts immigration overhaul will pass this year. Though the editorial section includes an interesting and critical discussion of alternative initiatives, for example, the attempts of the city of Detroit to offer visas to elite immigrants to build up industry while ignoring their own long-suffering residents, there are not many signs of hope for immigration reform in the coming months. However, Lunar New Year is a time of new beginnings, and during these weeks one can join City Council member Daniel Drum with the Hotel Chinese Association of USA at their recent Chinese New Year celebration. One can celebrate Lunar New Year at the Asia Society with Asian-inspired small plates available for purchase along with your specially priced pomotini and lychee tini, or you can join Flushing Interfaith Council at the Flushing Lunar Parade. Some of us are meeting at the Flushing Amnesty International meeting at 9:30 a.m. at 3901 Main Street, Suite 511, offices of One Flushing, and will proceed to the parade from there. Newly elected Mayor Bill de Blasio has stated that he will honor both Lunar New Year and the Islamic holiday of Eid in the public schools. We hope 12% of students in New York public schools are Muslim, and 15% of English language learners are Chinese, according to the Department of Education. So, let's all join in New Year's greetings. Gong Hai Fat Choi, Happy New Year, Happy Year of the Horse. However, it will be a year full of conflicts, according to some astrologers who see wood as providing fuel for the energetic horse sign. The latter part of the year is yin fire, increasing the potential for heated clashes even more. Feng Shui practitioner Raymond Lowe told Reuters, the upcoming horse year is also Yang Wood year, when people will stick more to their principles and stand firm, so it is hard to negotiate or compromise, as there are more tendencies for people to fight for their ideals. If you have business involving wood or fire, you will do well. The British newspaper The Independent reported that this includes lumber companies, agriculture, and media companies. But property companies won't do so well. As the horse is a galloper, the potential is for prices to gallop downward over the first 6 months. Countries in the southern hemisphere may experience gunfire as well as volcanoes because the fire energies are so strong, according to Chinese astrologer and Sydney Feng Shui master Lok Tin, who spoke to the Sydney Morning Herald about his predictions. Lie low if you're a horse. You are a horse if you were born in the year of the horse, 1942, 1954, 1966, 1978, 1990. When horse meets horse, the natural yin-yang opposition is no longer balanced, and thus over the next year horses are due some tense situations and pressure in their personal life. However, Fun Chik of the Feng Shui Society says that it is not that simple, and that meeting your own sign can be a time of self-reflection.
The Lone Ranger. Fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty Hi-Yo Silver. The Lone Ranger. Hi-Yo Silver! Away!
Today we'll be paying attention to those emerging nations, Sri Lanka and Burma. In fact, though Lunar New Year's celebrations are now taking place, Burmese New Year is April 17th, and in Sri Lanka, April 14th. So the New Year has not yet come to Sri Lanka and to Burma. And there are many problems in both countries, as we'll be discussing. While the World Bank throws money at Burma, a Jim Crow system increasingly prevails and signs of imminent genocide can be sensed. So there's much to talk about. But in the first segment, we'll be speaking with Jim McDonald, Amnesty International's country specialist on Sri Lanka, and with Eunice Lee, ACLU detention specialist. I believe, are you both on the line?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Jim McDonald.
Welcome, and welcome, Eunice. Thanks. I wanted to speak with both of you because this week there was an article in the New York Times about 5 Sri Lankan men who, as according to the article, left hometowns reeling from the remnants of a ruthless civil war and embarked on a months-long human smuggling journey that spanned 7 countries. They each paid $55,000 for a ride for a fresh chance in the Americas, captured within hours of their arrival in South Florida, and served as witnesses for the FBI in the investigation of their smugglers, cooperation that the men were led to believe that would work in their favor as their cases made their way through immigration courts. Well, it's more than 3 years, and these men are still in jail. So I wanted to ask, first of all, Eunice, you're a detention specialist, is that correct?
That's right. I'm a detention attorney at the ACLU.
Yes. And, I mean, what are your concerns in this? I mean, there are so many people in detention right now, but what makes this case or these 5 cases stand out?
Well, I think you're right. You're exactly right to point out that there are so many people in the broken immigration detention system. In the year 2011, there were 429,000 immigrants in that system locked up at a price tag of $2 billion. And I think that, this case just goes to show how unjust and irrational that system is, and the government's overreach in detaining people who pose no threat of danger or flight risk. These 5 asylum seekers arrived on their shores. They sought asylum. They had no criminal histories, and the government never alleged that they were a danger of any sort. And yet, the government, at the cost of U.S. taxpayers, spent almost $1 million to lock these 5 young men up for over 3 years now.
And it's quoted here, "Jail life is a horrible life," said one of the men, a 35-year-old fisherman who, like the other detainees interviewed, spoke anonymously. because of his country's record of arresting and torturing deportees of Tamil origin. He said, "If I stay here any longer, I will go crazy, and when I go back, I will be a mad person." So, Tamil origin. I was wondering, Jim, if you could give us some background on the Civil War and what does it mean to be Tamil in Sri Lanka now?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Sri Lanka has experienced a 26-year civil war between the Sri Lankan government forces and a Tamil militant group called the Liberation Tigers, Tamil Elam, which often referred to as the Tamil Tigers. The island has about 20 million people, and about three-quarters of that belong to the Sinhalese majority community, and there's about 11 or 12% who belong to the Tamil minority, who are mostly concentrated in the north and east of the island, that Tamil minority. So between 1983 and 2009, Tamil Tigers fought government forces trying to establish a separate, independent state in the northeast of the island for the Tamil minority. And this was a very brutal war, with gross human rights abuses being committed by both sides. The government forces subjected thousands of suspected Tiger members or supporters to arbitrary detention, torture, political killings, and enforced disappearances. In fact, Sri Lanka has among the highest number of reported disappearances in the world, with at least 30,000 cases reported up to the early 90s and many thousands thereafter. The government forces also indiscriminately killed Tamil civilians in retaliation for attacks by the Tigers. And the vast majority of the human rights abuses committed by the government forces, no one has ever been held accountable. The Tigers themselves also indiscriminately killed civilians from all the communities, Sinhalese majority community as well as the Tamil and Muslim minorities. They tortured and killed prisoners, they abducted civilians for ransom, they forcibly recruited and used child soldiers. The conventional fighting during the war was mostly limited to the north and east, but the Tigers used suicide bombers throughout the island for both targeted attacks against government forces as well as indiscriminate attacks against Sinhalese civilians. The final months of the war, right before the government victory in May of 2009, in which they reconquered all the Tiger-held territory and killed the Tiger senior leadership, the fighting became particularly intense. No side tried to protect the civilians who were trapped in the war zone. There were about 300,000 Tamil civilians trapped at the time. Instead, both sides attacked the civilians. The Tigers were holding them as human shields. When they tried to flee, they would shoot them. The government forces, for their part, indiscriminately and sometimes deliberately shelled them. We think both sides committed war crimes, crimes against humanity, other human rights abuses during the final months. There are UN estimates during the final months of the war that up to 40,000 or more Tamil civilians were killed. And by the way, Amnesty does think we desperately need an international investigation into the abuses committed by both sides during the final months of the war. Since the end of the war, if I can move to that, the war ended in May of 2009, so it's been almost 5 years now. The Sri Lankan government, instead of relaxing the controls over the population that they had during the war, instead they've gotten increasingly authoritarian, with more powers being concentrated in the hands of an already powerful president. They've led in the past few years a harsh assault on dissentient voices, with journalists, members of the judiciary, human rights activists, and opposition politicians being targeted in a disturbing pattern of really government-sanctioned abuse, often involving the security forces or their proxies. We have reported at least 15 journalists who've been killed since 2006, and the media in the Tamil majority north of the island are particularly at risk of attack. There are still enforced disappearances going on in Sri Lanka, with government opponents, journalists, and other activists among the victims. this has actually led now to a term, white van kidnappings, being used, where people who challenge the government are last being seen taken away by unknown people in trademark white vans. The repressive security laws that were used during the war to lock up suspected Tiger members or supporters without charge or trial are still on the books, and people are still being arrested and held under these laws. We're afraid in these cases that the people being detained may be subjected to torture or other ill treatment. Torture in police custody is rampant throughout Sri Lanka, has been for decades. It applied to both suspected Tiger members. It also applied to ordinary criminal and civil cases. There have been extremely few. It's a crime in Sri Lanka for the police to torture, but there have been extremely few prosecutions of police for doing so. Since the end of the war in the north, the Tamil majority, Tamil residents have reported regular harassment and threats by the Sri Lankan military personnel. The military continues to be stationed in high numbers throughout the north. There were local elections for a provincial council in the north last fall, and we got widespread reports of army intimidation during the time of that election. The government has been systematically dismantling human rights institutions. There's a National Human Rights Commission in Sri Lanka. Their independence has been changed and diminished by legal changes to the Constitution. The executive has also undermined the independence of the judiciary. About a year ago, they impeached the Chief Justice of the Sri Lankan Supreme Court through an unfair process brought, most believe, because she had ruled against the government in a couple important cases. Lawyers and judges who've have expressed concern about alleged interference by the executive. There are many complaints of lawyers and judges getting threats or being harassed if they're involved in cases dealing with human rights violations by government forces. This sets the context for these particular individuals who are in the U.S.
Right, and I understand that your colleagues at Human Rights Watch noted that Tamils who were deported back to Sri Lanka have been tortured as well. So this is very troubling, to say the least, that our system is planning to send these 5 men back to this dangerous situation. And I understand that the judge is somewhat controversial. I was wondering if Eunice wanted to speak to that.
Well, I think that, the asylum system in the United States, unfortunately, does function in what some scholars have called a refugee roulette. So depending on which particular immigration judge an individual is assigned to, the case has a much higher chance of success or failure. And, I can't comment on the individual judge in this case, except to note that the New York Times article did note that he has the 5th highest denial rate for asylum claims in the nation. But really, what happened with these men is absolutely heartbreaking. They, after 3 years of detention, they just couldn't stand being locked up anymore. And so what they did was they wrote letters to either the Immigration Court or the Board of Immigration Appeals saying that they couldn't stand being locked up and that, they would rather give up their cases. So that's why, for some of them, the deportations are imminent.
Well, I understand the judge, according to this article, denied 93.4% of asylum claims, according to Syracuse University track project. Also, it said that he admonished a mentally ill Chinese woman for answering questions before the interpreter had finished, telling her if she did so again, he would rule as though she had failed to show up in court. She repeated the mistake, so he ordered her deported. So there's some concerns there. But I know you're talking about the system in general, and you called it roulette, and certainly it makes a big difference what judge you get. I noticed that they were being held believing that the government would give them some kind of break because they had testified against their smuggler. But then they were put in the same holding pen as the man, and he yelled at them and threatened them. And then this man, who's a Canadian resident, whose name is Sri Kajumukam Chelia, if I'm pronouncing that right, pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 5 years in prison after they suspected him of smuggling 1,700 people. And meanwhile, these guys who were victims are there over 3 years. So I'm just wondering, what about these promises that the government makes to people if they're willing to testify?
Well, we do think, that the men are eligible for U visas, and that's something else. The U visa is a form of relief that's available for individuals who provide material assistance.
Mm-hmm. What is that again? What does that stand for?
It's called a U visa, and it's a form of visa for individuals who cooperate with law enforcement in criminal prosecution or criminal investigation. But I think, so there are many things about this case in which these men have really been mistreated at the hands of the U.S. government. And I think, there are a lot of really terrible things happen to them. But the overall story, in terms of their immigration cases and where they are at now, is really that the 3 years of detention that they suffered is an enormous human toll. The civil immigration detention is supposed to be different than the criminal detention system, but they suffered extremely harsh restrictions on liberty. And, we're basically locked up in jails for 3 years. And these are young asylum seekers who have no criminal histories and who are never alleged to be a danger again. And I think their cases really are indicative of the broader problem of this broken, massive system of immigration detention that the U.S. subjects asylum seekers, the elderly, small children, individuals with mental disabilities, all sorts of people who don't need to be locked up are kept in the system every year.
Well, it's a shame that we treat the most vulnerable people in this way. And I was wondering, as we wrap up, if either of you have anything you wanted to add, and any links or websites that you would recommend people to go to learn more about these issues. Jim?
I'd be happy to. Amnesty International USA has a website, amnestyusa.org. And if you go there and you go specifically to the Sri Lanka country page, you can learn more about our concerns on Sri Lanka, and that's at amnestyusa.org/Sri Lanka, all one word. And there are online actions you can take. You can also get more involved if you go to that page and try to check out the links. And we could always use more help on our campaigns on human rights abuses in Sri Lanka.
Very good. And the ACLU page, I'm sure, is up. Is there anything that the listeners might be able to do to assist with this case?
I think, I wanted to direct listeners to our website and our blog. You can read more about immigration detention and immigrants' rights work that the ACLU does more broadly at www.aclu.org. And I think that, on that page there should be contact information to the Immigrants' Rights Project, and listeners who are interested in these cases should definitely feel free to write us with any questions.
All right. Well, it's a sad story, and it's not nice for these 5 men. I hope that their next steps will be more positive, and that in this year they'll find some better treatment. Thank you both for your work, and I understand that there are similar concerns throughout the Southeast Asia region, and there's patterns and trends about the Islamophobia movements, the 360 movement in Sri Lanka, the 969 movement in Burma. We'll be talking about that in the next segment. I just wondered, Jim, if you had anything to say about the region, just briefly.
The only thing I'd say is a lot of the countries in the region have many human rights challenges, and you note that For instance, in Sri Lanka, in recent years, there have been increasing numbers of attacks against religious minorities. And we've seen that elsewhere in the region, whether in Pakistan or Burma, where Christian minorities, Muslim minorities in Sri Lanka and Burma have been attacked by majority Buddhist, in Sri Lanka's case, Sinhalese groups, with the government taking little action, if any, to stop or punish people responsible for these attacks, and this is a growing concern. And we've seen it as well in Burma with attacks by Buddhist majority Burmans against the Muslim minority in the southwest of the country.
Well, a lot of work to do, and we need more human rights activists to join you. And thank you both for your work.
Thank you for having me.
And the next segment, we'll be talking with Paul Pavese and Nay San-U from Rohingya Freedom Organization. And I'm going to first play a little bit of music. It's actually a traffic cop who sings a kind of Creole music based in Sri Lanka. And then we'll jump into the next segment. So stay tuned. WBAI 99.5. I'm on the line with Paul Pavese, who works here in New York. Last night I got an email from Paul with some alarming news about a friend in Burma. Hello, Paul. Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
How do you know this person?
I used to work with some Burmese monks, helping them with their English, and when Aung San Suu Kyi came here to New York, she made a plea that if we wanted to help Burma, we should help with the education. So I asked the monks what schools they thought in Burma might need some financial help. And they recommended this woman to me who's trying to teach computers and English to the people of Burma in her home village. I'm in communication with her from time to time. And on Saturday, February 1st, I got this email. Hi, Paul. I'm writing to let you know that my husband is in jail. The military regime has built a weapons factory in the village, and they took the land from the farmers in the township that is pumped. So my husband and friends wrote about the weapons factory in the Unity Journal. The police called my husband to the police station at about 11:10 p.m. last night. Now he is in jail. His name is Lu Ma Nguyen in Pakistan. My husband is also a reporter for the Unity Journal. Please share this news. I have to stay strong for the local people. That's our duty. The local people did not send their children to school today. The police know me. They know my family. And we are politically active. I'm Hugh Gambrina's sister. Tomorrow morning, I will go to the jail to bring some food to my husband and to ask questions to the police officers. Then Saturday, February 2nd, I got this. I am going I will send you news.
And then last night we got the message from you that she had been arrested.
She had been arrested and she was held with her 3-year-old daughter and the 2 friends who went with her to the police station. They were held and questioned. But this morning, February 6th, I got this email. I went to the prison, and the police told me that I and my husband will meet in the office. I got into the car, and they drove me to the office. I was in prison February 4th in the morning, and not released until February 4th evening.
Okay, so for the moment, your friend is out,
she's out of jail,
and her husband is still in.
I understand she will, the 14th or the 15th, she's supposed to go make herself available at court.
Well, I hope she has a support system and a lawyer, because, of course, the government will not look too favorably on her reporting. Committee to Protect Journalists is aware of this case, I know, and that U.S. Campaign for Burma is also aware. And we're all shocked that they arrested the 3-year-old along with her, but it looks like she's probably arranging for the care of her child.
Yes, I think that's one of the reasons they let her out of jail, so in case she's found guilty, she will be able to find some care for her child. I would like to say she is not one of the journalists. She is a teacher. It's her husband who's a journalist.
Okay. So it sounds like a number of people are being arrested.
Yes, there were 4 journalists. I believe the CEO of the Unity newspaper, the Unity Journal, her, and I believe the 2 friends who accompanied her to the jail were also held.
Well, I'm sorry your friend is facing this. It's not easy, and Burmese jails are not easy at all. We've heard some terrible accounts, but we can hope that they will be decently treated, especially if there's international attention. And again, groups like Committee to Protect Journalists are very important, Amnesty International and so forth. I think also that this is just another example about how messy the struggle to create a democratic system is in Burma. And this is an ongoing challenge that we'll be covering in our next segment. We'll stay in touch with you, Paul. Thank you.
Yes, please do.
Thank you for letting us know.
Sure.
Bye. I have with me today Mr. Ne San U, the co-founder of the Free Rohingya Campaign, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask about your work. The situation in Burma, we had violence erupting 2 weeks ago and ongoing persecutions of the Muslim minority groups, especially the Rohingya. This has been going on for many years, but in recent years we've seen an increase in land expropriations and theft. We've seen more mob violence and the rise of an Islamophobic group among the Buddhist extremist 969 movement. So there's many things that I'm sure you're working on.
And violence is still going on, and they say that the government and Kachin, they're seeing the ceasefire, but the ceasefire doesn't really last longer. The fighting is still going on within them. And besides that, in Arkan, an ongoing genocide is going on in almost 36 years, and the government is still failing to stop all the violence, and also they fail to provide the security of the Rohingya people, and there's still people cannot move one town to another. There's a very poor healthcare, and people are suffering every day. Girls and women are raped daily by the security forces, and this was really unfortunate to the Rohingya people. People say that it was a mass killing, but it was ethnic cleansing, I would say that. There was a pre-plan by the Burmese government cooperating with the leader of the Rakhine National Development Party, RNDP, just to wipe out the Rohingya from the land. Their intention was to divide the people from the people attention due to the Shui gas pipeline, which is going on from Arkan State all the way to China. So what they created was the Burmese government and Chinese government completely. They want to complete their project very quietly. So what they created was they created conflict between Rakhine Buddhists and Muslim Rangers. So while they are killing each other, they can be able to continue their project. Also, what the Rakhine was trying, they want to get the free land. Free land means something that without Rohingya.
So they're trying to steal the land from the minority groups in order to build this pipeline. Is that correct?
People really did not notice about what was going on with this project, because people are paying more attention on the violence. So actually they divide the people's attention. That's what they did.
I wanted to ask you about anti-Muslim feelings in Burma. I know that the Burma Citizen Law of 1982 restricted the rights of the Muslim minority, the Rohingya, and even though some of them have been in Burma for hundreds of years, this law made them stateless without many basic rights in the country. Is this one reason that Burmese are so negative, some of them, so hateful?
Let me tell you a little about this 1982 citizenship law. This law was actually created by the notorious government, the past government, General Nguyen. He's the architecture of creating of this law. This law is specifically, makes Rohingya to be stateless in the country. How they make it so that after implementing this law, they are taking away all the national identity cards from the Rohingya people. They're taking away everything from them. So, ultimately Rohingya has become stateless. Stateless. So generation by generation they become a legal immigrant, even though they are indigenous and native people are cut. So the registration of Rohingya is affected all sectors. I mean, the political, economic, education, social, travel, and many others. So the government is keeping all the Rohingya in prison since past 36 years. So we have to understand this is not like yesterday happened, not like in 2012 happened. It's happening 36 years ago. The systematically genocide on Rohingyas. So also government is supporting extremist group. It's called Nexus Line, which is led by the Mount Wiratu. Wiratu is one of the guys who's spreading all the hateful speech to all over the country. Hate against Rohingyas, hate against Muslims in overall. Look at the recent violence in Mechila. Muslim and Buddhist has been living peacefully for generation and many years. But since after he came out to the publicly, he started spreading all the hatreds and hate speech, ultimately become hate with each other. And top of that, and government is still allowing him to speak publicly instead of arresting him for the hate speech. So that is what basically happening in Burma. In order to stop this thing, the Burmese government has to arrest this extremist group. They have to ban the 969, and also they have to provide safeguard to the Muslim people. Muslims are now, they are living under fear. So they couldn't go out, they couldn't speak freely like any other citizen does. So it's just like we are getting isolated day by day.
I understand that just a few days after the recent violence, the World Bank gave $2 billion to the government of Burma for health programs, which sounds good, but are there any strings attached? Is the international community or the U.S. effectively pressuring the government of Myanmar to protect all its people?
First of all, I'd like to appreciate to the international community that they keep issuing the statement. But we really, what we need is we need the action, the serious action. We need the international investigation teams. We need the UN peacekeeping force in Arakan in order to protect the civilian of killing of innocent civilians. So also international community must think deeply to stop all the persecution of Rohingya. For the World Bank, we appreciate very much their concern and recent atrocity on Rohingyas, but I think it's too early for the big amount of donation.
Right.
So, they should make sure that all the people in Burma free from fear. Also, they have to stop the ongoing civil war in Kachin State. Also, one more thing is Rohingya is under operation of quasi-government, so they should change the situation of the suffering people with their donation.
There's two pieces of legislation in Washington right now. One is in the Senate. It has to do with military-to-military cooperation. Senator Menendez of New Jersey co-sponsored this bill to limit the amount of cooperation we engage in with the military government until they can demonstrate a better human rights record. And that is waiting for support in the Senate. In the House, there's a resolution number 418, which calls for the government of Burma to support and protect all its people. It says, the House of Representatives calls on the government of Burma to end all forms of persecution and discrimination of the Rohingya people and ensure respect for internationally recognized human rights for all ethnic and religious minority groups within Burma, and call on the United States government and international community to put consistent pressure on the government of Burma to take all necessary measures to end the persecution and discrimination. So what do you think about these legislations, these bills?
We are all supporting, the House Resolution 418. Also, we are campaigning right now and to all the Burmese Muslims over here in the United States, to contact with their congressmen and, to correspond now with this legislation. To me, I really support this, the House resolution 418. We really need to continue U.S. and international pressure on the Burmese government to take all the necessary measures and end the persecution and discrimination against the Rohingya people. Many people were killed, 1,000 homes were burned, and over 140,000 people were internally displaced in Burma, especially in Rakhine State. So I think approve these bills. It will be good for the Rohingya people as well as minority and religious minority group in Burma.
Do you know any of the villages that have been attacked, or do you know anybody who's been affected directly by the violence?
Oh yeah, I can tell you from my own story. In 2012, in Rakhine State, our town was attacked, and in that, one of my uncles was killed by the extremist Rakhine Buddhists, and all of my relatives were they were in the IDP camp right now. So we know that we got the news from them that my uncle was dead and my auntie was disappeared for a couple of months, and later on they reunited in the camps. Exactly what happened was the extremist Rakhine groups, and they come to surround to the Rohingya village where is a city. So my uncles and family was struck inside the house. There was some of the family member was able to escape from the house, but one of my uncles didn't go. He wouldn't be able to save his life. He was on the spot. He was chopped pieces by pieces from the Rakhine extremists. And at the same time, the police was doing nothing and just watching them. And the police were supposed to stop, but they didn't stop it, and they just watching them, and they just look like they are part of the violence.
So how about efforts in Burma to stop the violence and to change the laws so that they're less discriminatory? Who is working on it? Who is trying to build coalitions to stop the violence?
But I think this is the only way to stop the violence. Government has to safeguard and protect the Rohingya people. Recently there was a very outspoken person. Probably you may know Rohingya MP. He's a member of parliament. His name is Ushin Mao. He's doing a pretty great job without any fear. As for now, the case against on him is ongoing. I'm not sure whether this he will be jailed or not. He's facing a hard time because he's an outspoken. The government is trying to sue him. So also should you join the Nagaro? Muslim,
Okay, and what does that mean?
I request to, the authenticity that, the government, please coordinate with the government to stop the violence and protect the people of Burma. We had two demonstrations. One is in Los Angeles and Hollywood on February 8th. And another one is in the Washington, D.C. on February 27th in front of Burmese embassy. Mm-hmm. So I want all the Muslims from United States on human rights, the people who write the human rights, and I would like to invite them to come and join with us, and you can get all the information by following me at Twitter at NYCKOGY, NYCKOGYI. But if you want to get all the information regarding Rohingya, Burmese Muslim in general, you can certainly go to the www.rohingyablogger.com. Mm-hmm. We keep everything up to date. All the news, we have reliable sources from inside Burma. We have independent, journalists, volunteering inside the Burma. We are getting news hours by hours in real time.
Good. So that's RohingyaBlogger.com. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, good luck with this struggle, and hopefully we'll be in touch again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Sorry.
Okay, bye.
Speaking of Burma, there are currently only 21 co-sponsors supporting House Resolution 418. This leaves us almost 400 more to go. I don't know what is slowing them down. Maybe they are waiting for WBAI listeners. It would be worth testing that theory and calling the Congressional Switchboard to locate your representative and tell him or her you want them to sign on to protect the suffering people of Burma. The number for the Congressional Switchboard is 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. Please call. And though Syria and Central African Republic may loom larger in the news and in scale perhaps, other issues like today's perfectly Orwellian bill introduced into Congress known as the Protect Academic Freedom Act, which is anything but. It's a monstrous bill targeting the boycott and divestment movement. All of these things, well, please don't forget Sri Lanka or Burma, even though they don't make the news. For more information on an ongoing basis, please visit burmataskforce.org, O-R-G. And on February 27th, there will be an emergency roundtable, Human Rights Crisis in Burma, What is to be Done? And save the date, we'll be having Holly Atkinson, the past president of Physicians for Human Rights and author of two important 2013 reports on violence in Burma, and we'll be joined by other Burmese NGOs and multi-faith leaders and so forth. Please join us. It will be at All Souls Church on 80th Street, uptown. And if you want more information, you can call 646-251-0402. That's February 27th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. So we're going to be going now into a plea to raise a little money for this station because it's also suffering. It would be too bad if BAI was stateless and homeless and a victim of market forces like too many are. So we're going to play something and then I'll be right back.
If you got it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't got it. You don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Them that have it, get more of it. The less they need it, the more they love it, and it sticks to them like glue. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Ask the rich man, he'll confess, money can't buy happiness. Ask the poor man, he don't doubt, but he'd rather be miserable with than without. If you spend it, please be wiser. If you save it, you're a miser. You don't want it, you're cuckoo. Funny, funny, funny what money can do.
Oh, shut up, Jerry. What are you doing?
I'm singing.
This is singing.
Don't you like it?
No, I don't like it. Do you want to sing with me?
Can I sing with you?
Sure you can.
All right.
If I do not need it badly,
Banks will give it to you gladly.
but I need it.
Nuts to you.
Funny, funny, funny what money can do. If I'm lucky and I make it,
You'll be frightened.
well, who can take it?
The Internal Revenue.
Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Birds don't got it, still they sing.
Eating winds up on the wing.
Ideal life, some folks have found.
So okay, you're a bird, but suppose you're a worm.
It's a bad thing, oh yes, very.
Full of germs, unsanitary.
Will you have some?
Oh, thank you.
Funny, funny, funny what money can do.
pesos.
Si un gana, mo yung gabi ng yen.
Yen, ma che sti fucking lo yen? It's lire.
Geld, all right?
If I got it,
Who's got it?
I don't need it.
But I need it.
If you need it,
And I need it.
you don't got it.
But I want it.
You can't get it, shame on you.
What can I do?
Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Them that have it.
Where'd they get it?
So we were borrowing Jerry Lewis from his telethon, and he wants us to say that we need money too. WBAI needs your money. We have no premiums or premia or paramecia to offer you right now, but we still need your support for the station. It supports the work of activists and volunteer leaders serving the most vulnerable populations like Amnesty International and ACLU today in our show. WBAI supports the work of our struggling nonprofit sector. Instead of the circus of identity politics, it promotes and amplifies the voices of human rights defenders, the tired and poor and wretched refuse of the teeming shore. So please give. If you care about these Burmese, where else do you hear their voice? So I won't play my violin too much. I just wanted to ask you to take this responsibility we have seriously to keep WBAI on the air. We need to support even the fractious fractions of the teeming shore, and despite all, possibly our support of life on the edge of the rat race can help into existence some brave new world, some bright new hope instead of hype and spin. So let's not drink our own Kool-Aid or our caffeine all the time. Let's put it aside and open our mind. Hopefully we can find out a better world if we stay tuned together. So please give. Please call the number. And Max, thank you for your work. What is the phone number now? It's the old number, isn't it?
Yes, we have restored the old phone number, 212-209-2950.
That's 212-209-2950.
Although I should point out, I've heard that sometimes it's not fully staffed, at which point people might want to make a pledge online at the website that WBAI has set up. You can either go straight to WBAI.org and look for the link on Donate, or you can try the direct link, give to WBAI.org. That's give numeral 2, WBAI.org. You can check a strip across the top. There are a few premiums available where you can donate in the name of your favorite program from a click-down menu. You have to click on it and find the name of your favorite program. In this case, what would it be?
War on Immigrants Report, part of Global Movement's Urban Struggles. Please donate.
Okay, and that's maybe the best way to do it. If you don't get an answer immediately at 212-209-2950, go to give2wbai.org.
And Happy New Year, Happy Year of the Horse. Hope to see you and hear you in 2 months' time when I'm back on.